The muffled hum of a fan echoes in the kitchen as Emily washes the dishes. The clock on the wall reads 8:45 p.m. Michael arrives home late again, carrying the unmistakable scent of cheap perfume and guilt written all over his face. Emily knows. She has always known, but tonight, instead of covering up his betrayal with lies, he drops the truth like a bomb on the table. I want a divorce, Emily. I want a new life. I want to be happy. She looks at him, water still dripping from her hands, as if time has frozen. In a single moment, the man who once vowed to love her until the end of their days has shattered not only their marriage, but the home they built together. What Michael couldn't predict, however, was that this decision wouldn't mark the beginning of his freedom, but the start of his downfall. The story begins in a typical middle-class American neighborhood, with neatly aligned houses and white picket fences. Michael Harper, a 42-year-old man, is introduced as a respected manager at a tech company. Married for 15 years to Emily, a sweet and resilient woman, and father to 2 children, Josh, 12, and Lily, 8. Michael seems to have the life many would envy, but for him, the routine has become unbearable. For the past 6 months, Michael has been having an affair with Chloe Reynolds, a co-worker 10 years his junior. Chloe is vibrant, seductive, and everything Michael feels he has lost over the years. He starts spending more and more time with her, inventing fake meetings and business trips while Emily desperately tries to keep up appearances to protect their children. On that fateful night, Michael comes home, determined to change his life. Dinner is still on the table, and Emily, unaware of the storm about to hit, tries to start a conversation about the kids' summer plans. But he cuts her off abruptly. Emily, I need to talk to you. His tone is serious, almost cold, and for the first time in years, Emily feels a chill of fear. He doesn't meet her eyes as he says, I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. The words hit like a punch. Emily tries to reason with him, but Michael has already made up his mind. He doesn't want the house, he doesn't want custody of the kids, he just wants the freedom to be with Chloe. He packs his bags and leaves that very night, leaving Emily and the children in tears. The following days are chaotic. Emily feels lost, with barely enough money to cover all the expenses and no emotional support from Michael. Josh, the eldest, starts acting out, blaming his father for abandoning the family. Lily, too young to fully understand, asks every night, when is Daddy coming home? Meanwhile, Michael is euphoric with his new life alongside Chloe. They move into a modern apartment downtown, where everything seems perfect. But Chloe isn't the ideal partner Michael had envisioned. She's demanding, possessive, and increasingly dissatisfied with the lack of time he devotes to her, as work continues to be demanding. Small cracks begin to form in their relationship, but Michael refuses to see them. He's determined to prove he made the right decision. What Michael doesn't realize is that Emily's life is also changing. After the initial shock, she decides she won't let his betrayal define her. With the help of her childhood friend Sarah, Emily starts looking for a job and finds the strength to move forward for the sake of her children. Her story is just beginning, and so is Michael's downfall. The sound of the phone vibrating on the counter echoes through the silent room. Emily stares at it, hesitant. It's Michael. Since he left, he's barely called to check on the kids, and every time his name appears on the screen, Emily's stomach churns with pain and anger. Breathing heavily, she finally answers. Hi. Her voice is sharp. Emily. Michael's tone is casual, as if nothing were wrong. I need you to sign the divorce papers. I'll stop by tonight. Emily closes her eyes, trying to hold back the tears threatening to spill. He doesn't even ask about the kids. He doesn't ask if she's okay. To Michael, she's just an obstacle to be removed from his new life. Come by at 8, she replies, hanging up before her anger takes over. Meanwhile, in Michael's new life, the spark of his romance with Chloe is beginning to dim. The nights of passion have turned into constant arguments. Chloe complains that Michael still has emotional baggage with Emily, suggesting that he cares about his ex-wife more than he should. Michael, you need to cut those ties completely. I can't deal with this. It feels like you're with her, not me, Chloe says. arms crossed, staring at him from across the room. "She's the mother of my kids, Chloe. I can't erase that. I'm not with her, and you know that," he snaps, impatient. But Chloe doesn't want to hear it. The idealized, perfect new life Michael promised her is crumbling. Small disagreements over finances, schedules, and expectations begin to erode their relationship. Meanwhile, Emily takes her first step toward rebuilding her life. With Sarah's help, she secures an interview at a small bakery downtown. Pay is modest, but it's a start. On her way home, Emily feels a lightness she hasn't experienced in months. For the first time, she allows herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she can overcome this. At home, Josh watches his mother closely. The boy who was once cheerful and outgoing is now a quiet and resentful teenager. He blames Michael for Emily's pain, but also feels anger toward her for seeming so fragile. In his mind, parents are supposed to be unbreakable, and seeing his mother struggle leaves him confused and lost. "Josh, I need you to watch your sister while I run to the store." "I won't be long," Emily says, holding her car keys. "Fine," he mutters, not looking away from his computer screen. After Emily leaves, Josh locks himself in his room and opens a messaging app. He's found Chloe's profile on social media. Over the past few days, he's studied every post, every photo. He sees Chloe as the reason his family fell apart and feels a growing hatred toward her. "You'll pay for this," Josh mutters to himself as he types an anonymous message to Chloe. "You destroyed my family. I hope you're happy, but it won't last." At 8 p.m., as promised, Michael arrives at the family's old house. He doesn't bother to knock. He still has a key. When he enters, he finds Emily sitting on the couch, the divorce papers laid out on the coffee table. She looks at him but says nothing. Michael picks up the papers and begins explaining the terms, as though he's presenting a business proposal. Emily interrupts him. "Do you even know how the kids are doing, Michael? Have you bothered to ask what happened to them after you left?" He pauses, startled by her outburst. I thought—" "You didn't think at all," Emily yells, standing. "You just ran away. You left us here alone with no money, no plan, nothing." Michael tries to respond but can't. For the first time, he begins to grasp the extent of what he's done. Emily takes a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. "Sign the papers and get out of my house, Michael." He signs without a word, but as he leaves, something feels off. For the first time, doubt creeps into his mind. Did I make the right choice? Back at the apartment, Michael finds Chloe furious, holding her phone. "Who is Josh Harper?" she demands, showing him an angry message she just received. Michael freezes. "He's my son." "Well, it looks like he hates me. And guess what? He's right to hate me because at this point, I hate this situation too." Chloe's yelling reverberates through the apartment, and Michael begins to realize that the life he idealized is turning into a nightmare. Across town, Emily tucks the kids into bed. She steps into Josh's room to thank him for watching his sister, but finds him with tears streaming down his face. "I miss him, Mom," Josh confesses, his voice trembling. Emily sits beside him, pulling him into her arms. "I know, sweetheart, but we're going to be okay. We're strong." As they hold each other, Emily's phone vibrates. It's a message from an unknown number. "You deserve better than him. I'm rooting for you. Chloe." Emily stares at the message, confused and stunned. Michael wakes up in the middle of the night on the apartment sofa, the bluish glow of the television flickering in the dark room. Chloe is asleep in the bedroom, but the air feels heavy, suffocating. He stares at the ceiling, replaying his conversation, with Emily in his mind. For the first time in weeks, he feels a void that neither Chloe nor his job nor his new life can fill. Across town, Emily is also awake. Chloe's message still flashes in her mind like a warning. Why would the woman who destroyed her marriage be rooting for her? There's something about the gesture that feels like a provocation, a reminder of everything she lost, but Emily decides to let it go. Right now, all that matters is her children and rebuilding the life Michael shattered. The next morning, Michael gets ready for work. Chloe is lying in bed, scrolling on her phone. "We need to talk when you get back," she says without looking up. Michael feels a knot tighten in his stomach. Chloe never starts a sentence with "we need to talk" unless a storm is brewing. "Sure, we'll talk later," he replies, too afraid to face whatever is coming. On the way to the office, Michael mentally reviews the last few months. Far from being the confident man he once was, he now feels completely lost. At work, his performance has also begun to suffer. Sleepless nights and constant arguments with Chloe are taking a toll on his productivity. His boss, David, a tough and straightforward man, had already given him 2 warnings about missed deadlines. "Harper, I need you in my office." "Now." David calls as soon as Michael arrives. Seated in the leather chair, David looks at him from behind a stack of reports. "Michael, you've been one of the best managers I've had here. But what's going on with you lately? Your numbers are down, deadlines are being missed, and your team is complaining that you're not present." Michael tries to explain. "I'm going through personal problems, David, but I promise I'll get back on track." David folds his arms and sighs. "I hope so, Harper. You have 1 month to show results. If not, I'll have to make a decision." Michael leaves the office with a heavy heart. Once he would have considered work his top priority, but now even that seems to be slipping through his fingers. Meanwhile, Emily starts her first day at the bakery. Sarah helps her settle in, teaching her how to handle customers and organize orders. Although it's a simple job, Emily feels grateful. There's something refreshing about keeping her mind busy with tasks, about feeling like she's contributing to something. When Emily gets home that evening, she finds Josh in the living room with a worried look on his face. "Josh, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" He hesitates for a moment, holding his phone. "It's Dad. He called me today." Emily is surprised. Michael rarely reaches out to the kids, and Josh had made it clear he didn't want to talk to him. "What did he say?" He wants to see me. He said he wants to talk." Emily feels a mix of emotions. On one hand, she wants the kids to have a healthy relationship with their father. On the other, she's afraid Michael's instability will do more harm than good. "Do you want to see him?" Emily asks carefully. Josh stares at the floor, unsure of what to say. "I don't know. I think I do." Emily takes a deep breath. "Okay, we'll arrange for him to pick you up, but I want it to be nearby. I don't want you far away in case you need me." Josh nods, but something in his eyes shows a resentment Emily can't quite reach. At the apartment, Chloe waits impatiently for Michael. As soon as he walks through the door, she gets straight to the point. "I can't do this anymore, Michael." He stares at her, confused. "I know, sweetheart, but we're going to be okay. We're strong." As they hold each other, Emily's phone vibrates. It's a message from an unknown number. "You deserve better than him. I'm rooting for you. Chloe." Emily stares at the message, confused and stunned. Michael wakes up in the middle of the night on the apartment sofa, the bluish glow of the television flickering in the dark room. Chloe is asleep in the bedroom, but the air feels heavy, suffocating. He stares at the ceiling, replaying his conversation, with Emily in his mind. For the first time in weeks, he feels a void that neither Chloe nor his job nor his new life can fill. Across town, Emily is also awake. Chloe's message still flashes in her mind like a warning. Why would the woman who destroyed her marriage be rooting for her? There's something about the gesture that feels like a provocation, a reminder of everything she lost. But Emily decides to let it go. Right now, all that matters is her children and rebuilding the life Michael shattered. The next morning, Michael gets ready for work. Chloe is lying in bed scrolling on her phone. "We need to talk when you get back," she says without looking up. Michael feels a knot tighten in his stomach. Chloe never starts a sentence with, "We need to talk," unless a storm is brewing. "Sure, we'll talk later," he replies, too afraid to face whatever is coming. On the way to the office, Michael mentally reviews the last few months. Far from being the confident man he once was, he now feels completely lost. At work, his performance has also begun to suffer. Sleepless nights and constant arguments with Chloe are taking a toll on his productivity. His boss, David, a tough and straightforward man, had already given him 2 warnings about missed deadlines. "Harper, I need you in my office. Now." David calls as soon as Michael arrives. Seated in the leather chair, David looks at him from behind a stack of reports. "Michael, you've been one of the best managers I've had here. But what's going on with you lately? Your numbers are down, deadlines are being missed, and your team is complaining that you're not present." Michael tries to explain. "I'm going through personal problems, David, but I promise I'll get back on track." David folds his arms and sighs. "I hope so, Harper. You have 1 month to show results. If not, I'll have to make a decision." Michael leaves the office with a heavy heart. Once he would have considered work his top priority, but now even that seems to be slipping through his fingers. Meanwhile, Emily starts her first day at the bakery. Sarah helps her settle in, teaching her how to handle customers and organize orders. Although it's a simple job, Emily feels grateful. There's something refreshing about keeping her mind busy with tasks, about feeling like she's contributing to something. When Emily gets home that evening, she finds Josh in the living room with a worried look on his face. "Josh, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" He hesitates for a moment, holding his phone. "It's Dad. He called me today." Emily is surprised. Michael rarely reaches out to the kids, and Josh had made it clear he didn't want to talk to him. "What did he say?" He wants to see me. He said he wants to talk." Emily feels a mix of emotions. On one hand, she wants the kids to have a healthy relationship with their father. On the other, she's afraid Michael's instability will do more harm than good. "Do you want to see him?" Emily asks carefully. Josh stares at the floor, unsure of what to say. "I don't know. I think I do." Emily takes a deep breath. "Okay. We'll arrange for him to pick you up, but I want it to be nearby. I don't want you far away in case you need me." Josh nods, but something in his eyes shows a resentment Emily can't quite reach. At the apartment, Chloe waits impatiently for Michael. As soon as he walks through the door, she gets straight to the point. "I can't do this anymore, Michael." He stares at her, confused. Still, the image lingers in her mind. Chloe smiling, living a seemingly perfect life while Emily's own family was destroyed. Emily tries to push the anger aside. What Chloe does or doesn't do no longer matters. Her focus needs to remain on her children. The next morning, Michael decides to head to work early, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. But when he arrives at the office, he notices a strange atmosphere. His coworkers glance at him, whispering to each other. He tries to ignore it, but when he opens his email, the reason for their behavior becomes clear. An anonymous email has been sent to the entire company, including his boss, David. The email contains a photo of Michael and Chloe together, accompanied by a sarcastic caption. "When productivity drops, maybe it's because the manager is busy with extracurricular activities." Michael feels the blood drain from his face. He rushes to David's office, where his boss greets him with a look of pure disdain. "Michael, have a seat." "David, this isn't what it looks like." "It doesn't matter what it looks like, Harper. What matters is that your credibility is in shambles, and now the company's name is being dragged through the mud because of your personal behavior." "I swear I'll figure out who sent this, David. I just need some time." David shakes his head, impatient. "Time is something you don't have, Michael. Consider yourself suspended until further notice." Michael leaves the office in a daze. He tries to figure out who could have sent the email, but all he can think about is how his life is falling apart piece by piece. Back at the bakery, Emily receives an unexpected call. It's Chloe. "Emily, please hear me out. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from right now, but I need to tell you something." Emily grips the phone tightly, anger bubbling inside. "Chloe, you've done enough. There's nothing you can say that will change what you destroyed." I know, and you have every right to hate me. But Michael is falling apart, and you need to be prepared because it's going to affect your kids too. Emily is silent for a moment, trying to process Chloe's words. What do you mean by falling apart? He's losing everything, Emily. His job, his apartment, and me. I didn't want it to end like this, but he dragged me into his chaos. And now that I'm out of it, all I can think is that maybe I did you a favor by taking him out of your life. Emily feels the fury rising but forces herself to stay calm. If that's all you wanted to say, Chloe, I don't need to hear it. I've already been through enough. Just take care of the kids, Emily. They're all that matters. Chloe hangs up before Emily can respond. In the days that follow, Michael's life spirals further out of control. He discovers that Chloe not only left him but also took most of the apartment's furniture and canceled the lease without telling him. One evening, he comes home to find an eviction notice taped to his door. Without a job or a place to stay, Michael starts reaching out to friends, but they all seem distant or unavailable. He realizes that over the years he pushed away the people who mattered most, always prioritizing his own desires above everything else. In a moment of desperation, Michael picks up the phone and calls Emily. "What do you want, Michael?" she asks, exhausted. "Emily, I need help." She lets out a bitter laugh. "Help? After everything you've done? After you abandoned us? I know I messed up, Emily. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I don't have anyone else." Emily is silent, her mind torn between resentment and compassion. Finally, she replies, "I can't help you, Michael, not after everything. You're going to have to face the consequences of your choices just like I had to face mine." She hangs up, and Michael feels the crushing weight of his loneliness. That night, Emily sits down with Josh. "Sweetheart, how was your conversation with your dad at the park?" Josh shrugs, staring at the floor. He apologized, said he was sorry. But to me, that doesn't mean anything. Emily takes his hands and looks him in the eyes. "I know he hurt you, Josh, and I know you're angry. But don't let that anger consume you. It will only keep you stuck in the past." Josh nods, but his expression remains somber. Meanwhile, Michael sleeps in his car, parked in a dark alley. Rain patters against the windshield as he curls up in the back seat, shivering from the cold. His mind drifts back to the past, to happier moments with Emily and the kids. Tears begin to stream down his face as he murmurs to himself, "What have I done?" The persistent rain seemed to synchronize with Michael's internal state. He was still in his car, parked in the same dark alley where he'd spent the last few nights. The cold seeped into his skin, but not as deeply as the crushing loneliness that consumed him. The clock on his phone read 3:47 a.m. No messages, no calls, no one. The man who once thought he was in control of his life was now a shadow of what he used to be. Tired and desperate, Michael stepped out of the car and started walking through the city streets. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he felt a visceral need to find something or someone. His mind automatically guided him to the house where he had once lived with Emily and the kids. He stopped on the sidewalk, staring at the lit-up window of the living room. Inside, Emily was sitting on the couch with Lily asleep in her lap. Josh was beside her reading a school book, seemingly distracted. It was a simple scene, but to Michael it felt like a distant memory of a home he had destroyed with his own hands. He took a step toward the door but stopped. He knew he was no longer welcome there. With a heavy heart, he turned and began walking back to the car. But as he did, he realized he couldn't keep going like this. The next day, Emily was at the bakery, slicing bread and organizing orders with Sarah, when Michael walked in. He looked disheveled, unshaven, and exhausted. Sarah shot him a glare, crossing her arms, ready to throw him out, but Emily gestured for her to stop. "What are you doing here, Michael?" Emily asked, her tone cold but controlled. I needed to talk to you, it's important." She wiped her hands on her apron and stepped outside, where the rain was still falling lightly. "You have 5 minutes." Michael hesitated, struggling to find the right words. "I've lost everything, Emily. The job, Chloe, the apartment. I have no one left." She stared at him, her expression unreadable. "And what do you want from me? To save you? To clean up the mess you made?" "No," Michael replied quickly. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I was an idiot, selfish, and I destroyed our family. I know I can't fix it, but I needed you to know that I regret it." Emily crossed her arms, as if shielding herself from both the rain and the torrent of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "Michael, you destroyed our life. You left our kids without a father and me without a husband. I spent nights crying, trying to figure out what I did wrong, and you know what I realized? None of it was my fault. You decided we were disposable." Emily's words cut through Michael like sharp blades. He lowered his head, unable to meet her, gazing. I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I had to try." Emily took a deep breath, trying to hold herself together. "If you really want to make things right, Michael, then prove it. Not to me, but to your kids. They still need a father, even if I don't need a husband anymore." She turned and went back into the bakery, leaving Michael alone in the rain. After that encounter, Michael began to try, clumsily, to rebuild his life. He found a temporary job at a gas station, a far cry from the status he once had, but at that moment, it was his only option. He used part of his paycheck to buy small gifts for his kids, books for Josh, and a drawing notebook for Lily. However, when he delivered the gifts during a supervised visit, the reception was mixed. "You think a book is going to fix everything?" Josh asked angrily. Lily, on the other hand, smiled shyly and hugged the notebook. "Thank you, Daddy," she whispered, her sweet voice enough to make Michael's heart ache. Josh stormed out of the room, and Michael looked over at Emily, who was sitting in the kitchen. "He's going to hate me forever, isn't he?" "I don't know, Michael, but he needs time. We all do." Meanwhile, Emily began to notice that although Michael was far from the man she had once loved, he was trying. She still harbored resentment, but knew it was important for the kids to see their father trying to be a better person, even if it was only for them. Sarah, however, disagreed. "Emily, don't let him worm his way back into your life. Men like Michael only come back when they need something." "I know, Sarah, but this isn't about me, it's about Josh and Lily. They deserve to have a father, even if I'll never have a husband again." At work, Michael continued to face challenges. His coworkers treated him with disdain, and his supervisor was demanding. Still, he pushed through. He began to realize that the humility he had lost over the years was returning, painfully, in small doses. One night, after his shift, he passed by a community shelter and heard a talk about starting over and dealing with regret. Inspired, he decided to volunteer at the shelter on weekends, serving meals to people in situations even more difficult than his own. A month later, on a crisp autumn evening, Michael received a message from Josh. "Can we talk?" Michael responded, immediately, and the two met at the park where they had last had a tense conversation. Josh sat on the bench, his hands stuffed in the pockets of his jacket. "I'm still mad at you, Dad. I think I always will be." Michael nodded, respecting his son's feelings. "I know, Josh, and I don't expect you to forgive me anytime soon. But I'm here. I'll always be here, whenever you need me." Josh looked at his father, noticing for the first time the tired lines on his face and the once arrogant eyes now filled with humility. I don't want to hate you, you know." Michael felt tears welling up but held them back. "I don't want you to hate me either, son. I just want you to know that I'm trying to be better. For you, for your sister." Josh didn't say anything, but he gave a small nod before standing up. "I'll see you around, Dad." Michael watched him walk away, feeling a spark of hope in the midst of the darkness. The cold winter air had begun to settle over the city, bringing with it a melancholic stillness that seemed to reflect Michael Harper's state of mind. He continued working at the gas station during the day and volunteering at the community shelter at night. Slowly, his life was gaining small fragments of dignity, but the weight of his past choices still lingered. Despite the challenges, he tried to stay in touch with his children. Josh remained distant, often replying to his messages with monosyllables. But Lily, with her childlike innocence, was beginning to accept her father's presence. She enjoyed their visits to the park and the stories he told her about her childhood, even though their time together was brief and supervised by Emily. Emily, for her part, was continuing her own journey of rebuilding. After months of working at the bakery, she was promoted to supervisor. Now, with a slightly better salary, she felt a hint of financial stability that once seemed impossible. She was even beginning to consider going back to school, something she had given up on when she married Michael. Who would have thought a divorce would make me feel alive again? Emily joked with Sarah as they sipped coffee in Emily's kitchen. That's because you're strong, Emily. You always have been. He couldn't break you, and that's your greatest victory, Sarah replied with a smile. Even so, Emily knew that the true victory would be raising emotionally healthy children despite the chaos Michael had brought into their lives. One afternoon, Michael decided to do something different. He had spent weeks saving up to buy a small Christmas tree for Josh and Lily. When he finally had enough, he brought the tree to Emily's house, hesitant but determined to deliver it, in person. When Emily opened the door, she was surprised to see Michael holding the tree and a box of ornaments. "What's this?" she asked, crossing her arms. "I wanted to do something for our kids. I don't know if this means anything to you, but it's the best I can do right now," Michael said awkwardly. Emily stared at him for a few seconds before sighing and opening the door. "Come in." Michael stepped inside and saw Josh and Lily sitting on the couch. Lily's face lit up when she saw the tree and she ran to hug her father. "You brought a Christmas tree. Can we decorate it now, Mommy?" she asked excitedly. Emily glanced at Josh, who remained still, watching the scene with a mix of curiosity and resentment. "Of course, sweetheart," Emily replied, smiling at Lily. Michael and Lily began decorating the tree together while Emily prepared hot chocolate in the kitchen. Josh stayed at a distance, silently observing. After a while, Michael noticed his son standing off to the side and decided to approach him. "Want to help with the ornaments, Josh?" he asked gently. The boy hesitated before finally shrugging and picking up a small wooden angel. He hung it on one of the highest branches, avoiding eye contact with his father. "Nice job, son. It looks perfect up there," Michael said with a genuine smile. Josh didn't respond, but something in his expression seemed a little less cold. Later, as Michael was getting ready to leave, Emily walked him to the door. "Bringing the tree was a nice idea, thank you," she said. "I just wanted them to have a nice Christmas, something I couldn't give them last year." Emily looked at him, trying to read the man standing before her. He seemed different, more humble, less arrogant. "Michael, I know you're trying, and I appreciate that, but trust isn't something you rebuild overnight, it's a process." Michael nodded. "I know, Emily. I just want to be the father they deserve, even if I'll never be the husband you need." She didn't respond, but something in his sincerity struck a chord with her. The next day, Michael had a meeting with the manager of the community shelter, who had asked to speak with him. "Michael, I've been watching your work here. You've been dedicated and consistent even with the simplest tasks. That's why I want to offer you a position as an administrative assistant here at the shelter. It's a small salary, but I think it's a step in the right direction for you." Michael could hardly believe it. It was a job that would take him out of the gas station and give him a greater sense of purpose. He accepted without hesitation. Over time, things started to improve. Michael rented a small room in a boarding house and managed to save enough money to support his frequent visits with his children. He also started attending therapy sessions at the shelter, where he finally began confronting the mistakes of his past. Josh, slowly but surely, began responding to his father's messages more often, though there was still a barrier between them. Lily, ever cheerful, continued to tug him by the hand whenever he visited, as if nothing had changed. Emily, on the other hand, was rediscovering her own happiness. She enrolled in a night course in accounting, something she had always wanted to do, but never had the courage to pursue. For the first time in a long time, she felt fully in control of her life. On Christmas Eve, Michael was invited by Emily to spend a few hours with the kids at her house. He arrived with a bag full of modest gifts, carefully chosen for each child. As they all sat around the table for dinner, Michael noticed something that made him smile. For the first time in months, he felt a small spark of redemption in his life. After dinner, Josh asked to speak with him. "Dad, I still haven't forgiven you. And maybe I never will, but I think we can try." Michael felt his eyes well up with tears. "That's more than I could ever ask for, Josh. Thank you." As Michael left that night, walking through the snow-covered streets, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. He knew he had lost a lot and that some wounds might never fully heal. But he also knew that the man he had been before was gone, and in his place was someone who could finally do the right thing. A few years later, Emily completed her accounting course and opened her own small business. Josh went off to college, and Lily continued to grow into a happy, dreamy child. Michael, now an assistant director at the community shelter, devoted his life to helping people who, like him, had lost everything and needed a second chance. Although they never reconciled as a couple, Emily and Michael found a way to coexist, united by their love for their children and the mutual respect they had built over the years. Sometimes, the most devastating fall is the only path to true redemption. And so we conclude this emotional story of downfall, regret, and redemption. But now I want to hear from you. What would you do if you were in Emily's or Michael's shoes? Do you believe in second chances? Or do you think some things are beyond forgiveness? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and want to follow more emotional narratives like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new content. Leave a like to support our work, and we'll see you